Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into sandals that haven't been worn in over 3,000 years. We're going back to ancient Egypt, not to the tombs or the temples you've seen in documentaries. Tonight, you're living one full day as a physician in the reign of Ramesses II. You'll grind medicines that smell like earth and honey. You'll whisper incantations over infected wounds. You'll navigate the strange border between science and magic, where a cure might involve both surgical precision and a prayer to a lion-headed goddess. This is medicine before microscopes, before germ theory, before aspirin came in bottles. This is medicine when your toolkit included bronze scalpels, moldy bread, and yes, sometimes crocodile dung. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're listening from somewhere in the world right now, drop a comment telling me your location and what time it is where you are. I love knowing this little community spans time zones. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. It's still dark when you wake. No alarm clock, just your body's internal rhythm, trained over years. The air in your small room is cool, almost cold. Outside, the Nile is a distant whisper. Your home is modest, mud brick walls, a wooden headrest instead of a pillow, a single oil lamp flickering low. You're not royalty, but you're not a laborer either. You occupy that crucial middle space in Egyptian society, the skilled professional. ASWW, a physician. Your father was a physician. His father before him. You learned your trade the way most Egyptians learn theirs, through family transmission, years of watching, memorizing, practicing on the willing and the desperate. You sit up slowly. Your back aches a little. Funny how physicians aren't immune to the body's small rebellions. You've treated hundreds of backs, prescribed remedies involving castor oil and incantations to Sekhmet. But your own lower back? It does what it wants. You stand, wrapping a simple linen kilt around your waist. Linen is everywhere in Egypt. The wealthy wear it fine and pleated. You wear it clean and practical. The fabric is light, breathable, perfect for a climate where the sun doesn't ask permission. You splash water on your face from a ceramic bowl. The water is cool, drawn yesterday from the canal. You keep your head shaved. Most Egyptian men do. It's cleaner, cooler, fewer problems with lice. Though you'll don a wig later if you visit someone important. Wigs are about status, not comfort. Historians still argue whether Egyptian physicians were primarily priests or secular practitioners. The truth? It's complicated. Some physicians work entirely within temple complexes, combining medicine with religious ritual. Others, like you, operate semi-independently but maintain close ties to the temples. You pay respect to the gods. You make offerings, but you also charge fees and keep your own hours. You're not exactly a priest, but you're not exactly not a priest either. Egyptian categories are blurry that way. Through the small window, you see the sky beginning its slow shift from black to deep blue. Venus is visible, bright and steady. The Egyptians call it the god who crosses. You've always found the pre-dawn sky calming. It's the only time of day that belongs to you alone. No patients yet, no emergencies, just you and the quiet. You light a second oil lamp, sesame oil, smoky and warm. On a low shelf sit your most precious possessions. Papyrus scrolls, 3 of them, carefully rolled. One is a copy of remedies you inherited from your father. Another contains surgical procedures for setting broken bones. The third is covered in spells, incantations to recite while applying bandages, words believed to activate the medicine's power. Modern people sometimes laugh at the magical elements in Egyptian medicine. But here's the thing they don't understand. You've seen infections clear after reciting the right spell. You've watched fevers break when you invoked Sekhmet's name while applying a poultice. Coincidence? Divine intervention? Placebo effect? Though you don't have that word yet, you don't know. You just know it sometimes works. And in medicine, results matter more than explanations. One curious fact that archaeologists love: Egyptian medical papyri show an impressive understanding of the circulatory system. You know the heart is central. You know vessels radiate from it. You call them metu, channels carrying blood, air, water, and sometimes disease throughout the body. You're wrong about some of the details, but you're not entirely wrong. You understand that pulse matters, that the heart's rhythm tells you something about a person's condition. That's more than many cultures will know for another 1,000 years. You drink a cup of beer, weak, nutritious, safer than water. Beer for breakfast is an indulgence in Egypt. It's practical. The brewing process kills things that would otherwise kill you. Outside, you hear the first sounds of the city waking. A donkey braying, someone's rooster confused about timing, the distant call of a street vendor already setting up. Soon, people will start arriving at your door. The sick, the injured, the worried mothers with feverish children, the laborers with work accidents. But not yet. For a few more minutes, it's just you, a physician in one of the world's first great civilizations, standing on the shoulders of medical knowledge that stretches back before the pyramids, preparing to face another day of wounds and mysteries, of successes you'll celebrate privately and failures that will haunt you for weeks. You step outside into the courtyard. The air smells like dust and distant baking bread. The sky is lighter now, indigo bleeding into gray. You take a deep breath. Today, someone's life might depend on your knowledge, your intuition, your ability to read both symptoms and God's. No pressure. You smile a little at your own thought. Then you turn back inside. Time to prepare. Time to become the healer your city needs. Time to begin. The first ritual of your day isn't medical. It's spiritual. You walk to the corner of your courtyard where a large ceramic basin sits on a limestone block. The water inside was drawn fresh yesterday evening. It's cool to the touch. You pour a smaller vessel of water over your hands, watching it cascade down. 3 times for each hand. The number 3 matters. Egypt runs on sacred numbers. 3 for the aspects of the soul. 4 for the cardinal directions. 7 for completeness. You're not superstitious. At least, you don't think of it that way. You're thorough. You speak quietly. May Thoth guide my hands. May Sekhmet grant her fierce mercy. Thoth, the ibis-headed god of wisdom, writing, and medicine. Sekhmet, the lioness goddess of both plague and healing. She who can send disease and cure it. These aren't distant, abstract deities to you. They're partners in your work. You've been trained to see medicine as a collaboration between human skill and divine will. Remove either element, and the whole structure collapses. After washing your hands, you wash your feet. Then you pour water over your shaved head, letting it run down your neck and shoulders. The morning air is still cool enough that the water feels sharp, awakening. You dry yourself with a length of clean linen. Cleanliness isn't just practical for you. It's ritual, sacred. Medical texts emphasize purification before treating patients. Some historians argue this ritual cleanliness accidentally prevented infection, that Egyptian physicians stumbled into antiseptic practice through religious devotion. Maybe, or maybe the gods knew something you didn't have words for yet. You return inside and open a small wooden box. Inside, natron salt, ground frankincense, myrrh resin. You take a pinch of frankincense between your fingers. The scent is immediate, sharp, clean, slightly sweet. You place it in a small bronze censer. Light it from your oil lamp. The smoke rises, thin and fragrant. You close your eyes and inhale. I purify this space. I purify this day. I purify myself in service to those who suffer. The words are partly from temple training, partly your own. Egyptian religion leaves room for personal interpretation. The gods are real and present, but they're also flexible. They don't demand word-perfect liturgy. They want intention, respect, offering. Here's something modern people find strange. You don't separate your medical identity from your religious identity. They're the same thing. When you set a broken bone, you're performing both carpentry and prayer. When you prescribe a remedy, you're mixing pharmacology and spellcraft. To you, these aren't different activities. They're one activity with multiple aspects. Like how the Nile is simultaneously water, transportation, food source, and divine manifestation. You can't separate them. Why would you try? You put on a fresh linen kilt, cleaner, whiter than the one you slept in. Over it, a simple tunic that falls to mid-thigh. You'll add a collar later if you're summoned to treat someone wealthy. For now, working clothes. From a small jar, you take a bit of oil, morina oil, light and non-greasy. You rub it into your skin. The Egyptian sun is relentless. Oil protects, moisturizes, and carries scent. You add a tiny amount of myrrh to the oil. Now you smell clean, professional, faintly sacred. Scent matters in your profession. You'll spend the day around wounds, illness, bodily fluids. The myrrh helps, but it also signals to patients, this person has prepared. This person is serious. This person operates with the God's approval. In your profession, confidence is half the treatment. You've seen patients improve simply because they believed you could help them. And you've seen patients worsen despite perfect treatment because they'd lost hope. The mind and body are not separate. Another thing you know that later cultures will forget and have to relearn. You open a small shrine built into the wall, just a niche, really. Inside, a small wooden statue of Thoth. Ibis head, human body, holding a writing palette. You place a piece of bread before it. A small offering. Thoth, Lord of knowledge, guide me today. Help me see what others miss. Give me clarity when symptoms confuse. Grant me steady hands. Simple, direct. Egyptian prayers aren't flowery. You state what you need. The gods either provide or they don't. Next to Thoth's statue sits a tiny image of Tarit, the hippopotamus goddess who protects women in childbirth. You're not a midwife exactly, but you're sometimes called when births go wrong. When a midwife has exhausted her knowledge and the situation turns dangerous. You've saved some mothers and babies. You've lost others. Childbirth is where you feel most helpless, where even your best knowledge crashes against biological fate. You touch Tarit's statue gently. Watch over the mothers today. If I'm called, be there with me. One weird fact that delights modern scholars. Egyptian medical papyri include pregnancy tests. You can determine pregnancy by having a woman urinate on wheat and barley seeds. If wheat sprouts, it's a boy. If barley sprouts, it's a girl. If neither sprouts, she's not pregnant. Absurd, right? Except in the 1960s, researchers tested this method. It correctly identified pregnancy about 70% of the time. Something in pregnant women's urine does promote germination. The boy versus girl part is nonsense. But the basic test? Your ancestors weren't entirely wrong. You stand quietly for a moment, letting the frankincense smoke drift. This is the part of the morning you'll miss most when you're old. This stillness, this sense of preparation, this feeling that you're aligning yourself with forces larger and older than any individual life. Through the courtyard opening, you hear the city waking more vigorously now. Voices, the clatter of pots, someone singing, a work song, rhythmic and repetitive. The day is coming for you whether you're ready or not. But you are ready. You've washed. You've prayed. You've marked yourself as a servant of healing gods. You've put on the identity of physician like you put on clean linen. Now comes the work, the patience, the problems that don't care about your careful preparations. You extinguish the frankincense. Take one more breath of the scented air. Then you step toward the door that leads to the street. Outside, the sun is finally visible, a red-gold disk climbing above the buildings across the way. It's going to be hot today. It's always hot. But the morning still holds a little coolness, a little mercy. You're grateful for it. You'll need that mercy. The day ahead will test everything you know, and probably reveal a dozen things you don't. You walk through streets that are already busy. The city, somewhere near Thebes, though the exact location doesn't matter as much as the rhythm, pulses with morning energy. Bakers shout about fresh bread. A woman balances a water jar on her head, walking with that effortless grace that comes from years of practice. Children chase each other between buildings, laughing. A merchant argues loudly about the price of fish. Normal life. The life that continues whether people are sick or well. You're headed to the Parank, the house of life. It's attached to the temple complex, but it's not exactly a temple itself. Think of it as a library, scriptorium, medical school, and workshop all rolled into one. This is where knowledge lives, where it's copied, preserved, studied, and transmitted. You're not the only physician who works here. There may be 6 or 7 others, plus scribes, apprentices, and temple administrators who drift in and out. The building is modest from the outside, mud brick like everything else, though the walls are painted white. A small courtyard leads to several rooms. One room is dedicated entirely to scrolls. Another serves as a workspace where medicines are prepared. A third is for consultations with patients who can afford privacy. You enter through the courtyard, nodding to a young apprentice who's already grinding something in a stone mortar. He looks about 15, eager, nervous, trying too hard. You remember being him. "Morning," you say. "Morning, SWNW," he replies, using your title with a respect that still feels slightly strange. Inside the scroll room, the air is different, cooler, drier. They keep the windows small here to protect the papyrus from moisture and sunlight. Shelves line 3 walls, floor to ceiling. On them, dozens of scrolls, each carefully labeled. Some are medical texts, compilations of remedies organized by body part or symptom. Others are surgical manuals. Still others are collections of spells and incantations. And then there are the really old ones. Scrolls copied from scrolls copied from scrolls, going back centuries, maybe over 1,000 years. Knowledge passed down through generations of physicians who believed, correctly, that what they learned mattered beyond their own lifetimes. Here's something that blows modern minds. The Edwin Smith Papyrus, discovered in the 1800s, contains surgical procedures that are remarkably rational. 48 cases of injuries, mostly to the head and torso. Each case follows a format: title, examination, diagnosis, treatment, prognosis. Scientific method, basically, thousands of years before Europe formalized it. The papyrus describes how to stitch wounds, set broken bones, treat dislocations. It even recognizes that some injuries are untreatable and says so plainly, an ailment not to be treated. Honest prognosis. Your ancestors understood triage. You run your fingers along the scrolls, looking for one in particular. There, a text on fevers. You pull it carefully from a shelf. Unroll it on the wooden reading table. The hieratic script, cursive hieroglyphics, faster to write than the formal version, flows across the papyrus in neat columns. You read, "If you examine a man with fever in his limbs and heat in his belly, you shall say, 'This is a fever of the channels.' The remedy involves beer mixed with dates, left overnight, then strained, plus an incantation to Sekhmet. You've used this treatment. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. You've never been entirely sure why." Another physician enters, older than you, graying at the temples despite his shaved head showing through. His name is Amenhotep. He's been practicing for 30 years. Early today, he observes. "Couldn't sleep," you admit. "Thinking about that patient from last week? The one who died. A young man? Infection from farming accident. You tried everything. Honey poultices, willow bark for fever, prayers, incantations. He died anyway." "Yes," you say quietly. Amenhotep nods. He understands. Every physician carries their losses. You did what you could. Sometimes the gods decide otherwise. It's meant to be comforting. It doesn't entirely work, but you appreciate the attempt. Amenhotep moves to another shelf, selecting a scroll about eye diseases. Egypt has a lot of eye problems. The sun, the sand, the flies all contribute. Trachoma is common. Conjunctivitis. You've treated dozens of eye infections. Some remedies work beautifully. Others, like applying green eye paint made from malachite, seem more cosmetic than medical. Though historians still argue whether the copper in the malachite had antimicrobial properties. Maybe it did. Maybe your ancestors were smarter than they get credit for. You begin copying a section of the fever text onto a fresh papyrus. This is part of your job: preservation. Papyrus doesn't last forever, especially in humid conditions near the Nile. Scrolls must be recopied every few decades or the knowledge dies. You mix ink, carbon black with a bit of gum Arabic to make it stick. Your reed pen is cut at an angle, perfect for the script. You write slowly, carefully. Each hieratic character must be accurate. A copying error could mean the wrong dosage, the wrong herb, a dangerous mistake propagated across generations. This is sacred work. Not religious sacred, though that too. Sacred in the sense of, this matters beyond yourself. The young apprentice appears in the doorway. SWNW, there's a patient outside. Says his tooth is killing him. You sigh internally. Dental problems. Some of the worst. Egyptian teeth wear down quickly. The bread has sand in it from the grinding stones. By middle age, most people have significant tooth wear. Infections are common. Abscesses. Pain that makes people wish for death. You can extract teeth if necessary. You can pack the socket with honey and linen to prevent infection. You can prescribe pain remedies. Opium poppy if the pain is severe, though that's expensive and controlled. But you can't regrow a tooth. And root canals won't be invented for thousands of years. Tell him I'll be out shortly, you say. The apprentice vanishes. You finish the line you're copying, then carefully set the pen down. Amenhotep glances at you. The god of dentistry must have been sleeping when the world was made, he says drily. You smile despite yourself. It's an old joke among physicians. Teeth. Proof that the gods have a sense of humor. You wash your hands again in a basin near the door, a habit so ingrained you barely notice doing it. Then you step out into the bright courtyard. The patient waits. A man maybe 40, holding his jaw, eyes watering from pain. Show me, you say gently. He opens his mouth. Even from here, you can smell the infection. It's going to be a long day, but this is what you trained for. This is why the House of Life exists. To meet suffering with knowledge. To stand between people and pain. To do what you can with what you have. Which, in this moment, in this ancient place, is more than nothing. And sometimes, more than nothing is enough. The man with the toothache can wait a moment longer. Because standing behind him, looking impatient and considerably wealthier, is someone whose social status demands immediate attention. You recognize him, a mid-level nobleman, an administrator in the grain distribution office. His name is Tahotep. He's wearing a pleated linen kilt, a broad collar of faience beads, and an expression of poorly concealed anxiety. His left forearm is wrapped in what was once clean linen. Now the wrapping is stained yellowish-brown. Not a good sign. SWNW, he says, his voice tight. This wound, it's not healing. It's getting worse. You gesture toward the consultation room. Come, let me see. The toothache patient looks disappointed, but doesn't protest. Social hierarchy in Egypt is clear, unambiguous. You'll treat him after. Inside the consultation room, light filters through a high window. There's a wooden examination bench, a table with your instruments, ceramic jars of remedies, and bowls of clean water. The walls are painted with a simple border of lotus flowers. Calming. Professional. Sit, you tell Tahotep. He sits, extending his arm with the caution of someone who knows movement causes pain. You begin unwrapping the linen bandage. Slowly, carefully. The last thing you want is to cause unnecessary pain or restart bleeding. As the layers come away, the smell hits you. Infection. Definitely infection. The wound itself is on the outer forearm, maybe 4 inches long. A gash, probably from something metal based on the clean edges. It happened. You do the mental calculation based on the bandage condition, probably 5 or 6 days ago. The edges of the wound are angry red, swollen. There's pus, not the thin, whitish pus that sometimes accompanies healing. Thick, yellowish-green pus that signals serious infection. You touch the skin around the wound gently. Huh. Tahotep winces. Tell me what happened. You say, keeping your voice neutral. I was at the docks, supervising grain shipments. Some idiot dropped a bronze tool. It fell and caught my arm. I cleaned it with water, wrapped it, thought it would be fine. You nod. Reasonable as far as these things go. Most people do exactly that. And when did you notice it wasn't healing? 3 days ago. The pain got worse instead of better. And the smell. You examine the wound more closely. There's no foreign material visible. No bronze fragments, no fiber, nothing obviously lodged inside. That's good. The wound itself isn't impossibly deep. Also good. But the infection is established and spreading. You can see red streaks beginning to radiate up his forearm toward his elbow. That's very bad. Those streaks meaning the infection is traveling through his metu, his vessels. If it reaches his heart, he'll likely die. You've seen it happen. Fever, delirium, death within days. I'm going to be honest with you, you say, meeting his eyes. This infection is serious. I can treat it, but you need to follow my instructions exactly. He nods quickly. Fear has a way of making people compliant. Here's where your training and experience collide with uncertainty. You have several treatment options. Option 1. Clean the wound thoroughly, pack it with honey, and re-bandage it while reciting healing spells. Honey is one of your best weapons against infection. Modern science will eventually discover that honey has antibacterial properties. It draws moisture out of bacterial cells, killing them. You don't know the mechanism. You just know it works more often than not. Option 2. Use moldy bread. Sounds insane, and most patients hate it. But you've seen moldy bread clear infections that honey couldn't touch. Something in the mold, penicillin, though you won't have that word for 3,000 years, fights infection. Option 3. The knife. If the infection is too deep, too established, you might need to reopen the wound, clean it from the inside, remove dead tissue. Painful, risky, but sometimes necessary. You decide to start conservatively and escalate if needed. First, I'm going to clean this wound properly. It will hurt. Tahotep braces himself. You pour beer over the wound, fresh beer, not the drinking kind. The alcohol content, though you don't think of it that way, helps disinfect. He hisses through his teeth, but doesn't pull away. Good. You've had patients who couldn't handle this part. Next, you take a clean linen cloth and begin wiping away the pus and dead tissue. Gentle but firm. The wound needs to be cleaned before anything else can help. Tahotep's face goes pale, but he stays still. You work quickly, efficiently. This is where your training shows. You know exactly how much force to use, what healthy tissue looks like versus dead tissue, when to stop before causing more damage. When the wound is as clean as you can get it, you reach for a ceramic jar. Inside, honey. Dark, thick, unpasteurized. You spread it generously into the wound. Then you take a different jar. This one contains a paste you prepared earlier. Ground willow bark mixed with animal fat. The willow bark contains salicin, what will eventually become aspirin. It reduces pain and inflammation. You apply a thin layer over the honey. Now comes the spiritual component. You place your hand over the wound, not touching, just hovering. And you speak. Sekhmet, Lady of Rage and Remedy, drive out the demons of corruption. Thoth, Lord of Knowledge, guide this healing. Let the flesh knit. Let the heat depart. Let life remain. You repeat it 3 times. Tahotep watches you intently. He believes in this part as much as the honey. Maybe more. Historians still debate how much Egyptian physicians believed in the magical components of their practice versus how much they included them to satisfy patient expectations. The truth? You genuinely believe both elements matter. The honey helps. The prayer helps. They work together. You've seen too many cases where one without the other failed. You wrap the wound in fresh, clean linen. Not too tight. The wound needs to breathe a little, but secure enough to stay in place. You need to come back tomorrow, you tell him. I'll unwrap it, clean it again, reapply the honey. This needs to be done daily until the infection clears. How long? Maybe 5 days. Maybe 7. We'll know by how it looks. And if it doesn't improve, you pause. Honesty is part of your job. Then I'll need to cut away the infected tissue. It's painful and there are risks, but it's better than the alternative. He understands the alternative. Everyone does. I'll be here tomorrow, he says. You name your fee, grain, not gold. Gold is for royalty and temples. You deal in practical currency. He agrees without negotiating. Pain and fear make people generous. As he leaves, you wash your hand again. 3rd time today, and the sun isn't even at its peak yet. The patient with the toothache is still waiting. You take a breath. 1 down. How many more before sunset? You never know. That's part of what makes this work exhausting and essential and, in its own strange way, sacred. The toothache patient is grateful for your attention, even if it comes second. His name is Kenny, a brickmaker. His hands are rough, clay-stained even after washing. He opens his mouth, and you see the problem immediately. A molar on the lower left, cracked and badly decayed. The gum around it is swollen, inflamed. An abscess forming or already formed. You've seen this 100 times. The Egyptian diet, bread full of sand from grinding stones, dates sticky with natural sugar, destroys teeth. By 30, most people have significant dental problems. By 40, many are missing teeth entirely. How long has it been hurting, you ask? 3 days. Getting worse. Can't sleep. Can't eat. You nod. You can extract the tooth. It's one of your least favorite procedures, but you've done it many times. Or you could try to save it with a poultice to draw out the infection. Given how bad it looks, extraction is probably necessary. But you'll try the conservative approach first. You mix a paste, myrrh resin, crushed cumin, honey. You pack it around the affected tooth and the swollen gum. Keep this in place as long as you can, you tell him. It will taste terrible. Don't swallow it. Let it work on the infection. You also give him a small packet of willow bark. Chew this for pain. Not too much. It can upset your stomach, but it will help. He looks relieved, even though you both know this might only delay the inevitable. Come back in 2 days. If it's not better, I'll need to remove the tooth. He nods, pays you in fresh bread, still warm, which you appreciate, and leaves. You're alone for a moment. The consultation room is quiet. You sit on the bench, feeling the morning's work already in your shoulders. And it's not even midday yet. Through the window, you hear the city continuing. Always continuing. Life doesn't pause for individual suffering. There's a knock. Amenhotep enters, holding a cup. Tea. You look like you need it. It's not really tea, more like an infusion of herbs. Mint, chamomile, a hint of honey. But the gesture is kind. You accept it gratefully. Infected wound and an abscess before noon. You say, good start. Amenhotep smiles slightly. Wait until you've been doing this as long as I have. Some days, that would be a slow morning. You sip the warm liquid. It helps. Can I ask you something? You say, always. How do you know when to trust the old knowledge versus when to try something new? It's a question that's been bothering you lately. The scrolls contain centuries of accumulated wisdom, but some of it clearly doesn't work. Some remedies are obviously superstition, yet some of the strangest treatments, like moldy bread, work better than the logical ones. Amenhotep sits down across from you. He takes a moment before answering. That's one thing you appreciate about him. He doesn't rush important questions. The scrolls are guides, not commandments, he says finally. Our ancestors were brilliant, but they were also human. They made mistakes, guessed wrong, copied errors. He pauses. Here's what I've learned. Trust what you see repeated success with. Question what consistently fails. And always pay attention to the patient's body. It will tell you things no scroll can. You consider this. It's good advice. Practical. The pulse, you say. I've been studying the pulse more carefully. The way it changes with different illnesses. Amenhotep nods approvingly. Good. The metu, the vessels, carry the body's vitality. Reading them is one of our most important skills. Here's something extraordinary. Egyptian physicians discovered pulse diagnosis. You place your fingers on a patient's wrist, neck, or temple. You feel the rhythm, the strength, the quality of the pulse. You believe, and you're partly right, that the pulse tells you about the state of the heart and the vessels radiating from it. You don't understand blood circulation the way later cultures will. You think the vessels carry a mixture of air, blood, water, and vital force. You believe there are 22 vessels corresponding to the 22 nomes of Upper Egypt, numerology influencing anatomy. You're wrong about the details, but you're right that pulse matters, that it changes with disease, that it's a window into the body's internal state. Historians still debate how much Egyptian pulse diagnosis anticipated later Chinese and Greek medicine. Did the knowledge spread? Was it discovered independently multiple times? Nobody knows for certain. When you examine a patient, Amenhotep continues, what do you do first? I look at their face, their color, how they hold themselves. Good. And I ask questions. When did the symptoms start? What makes them better or worse? What have they tried already? And then I touch. I feel for heat, swelling, pulse. I listen to their breathing. Amenhotep smiles. You've been taught well. The body speaks if you know how to listen. There's another knock. The young apprentice again. SWNW, there's a woman here. She says her child has a fever. You stand immediately. Children are always urgent. Fever in a child can turn deadly fast. Amenhotep stands too. I'll help, he offers. You're grateful. The mother is young, maybe 20, and frightened. She carries a small boy, perhaps 3 years old. He's limp against her shoulder, flushed, clearly unwell. You gesture them to the examination bench. Lay him down gently, you say. She does, her hands shaking slightly. The boy whimpers, but doesn't fully wake. You place your hand on his forehead. Very hot. You open his eyelids gently, pupils responding normally, which is good. You place your fingers on his neck, feeling for the pulse. Fast. Too fast. Racing like a bird's heartbeat. How long has he been like this? You ask. Since last night. He was playing yesterday, seemed fine. Then he got hot and wouldn't eat. You examine his throat, red, inflamed. You check his ears, also inflamed. You press gently on his belly. He whimpers, but there's no rigid hardness that would suggest serious internal problems. This looks like what you call fever of the throat. Common in children. Sometimes it passes on its own. Sometimes it doesn't. You mix a remedy quickly. Willow bark for the fever, honey to soothe the throat, a small amount of poppy if the pain is severe. But poppy for children is dangerous. Too much can stop their breathing. You measure carefully. Very carefully. Give him this mixed in water, small sips. You instruct. Keep him cool, wet cloths on his forehead and neck. Make him drink, even if he doesn't want to. You pause, placing your hand over the child, speaking softly. Sekhmet, who knows the suffering of children, ease this fever. Taret, protector of the young, grant your mercy. Let this child wake tomorrow with clear eyes and hunger in his belly. The mother watches you with desperate hope. Will he be all right? You meet her eyes. Honesty, always. Most children recover from this, but you need to watch him closely. If the fever doesn't break by tonight, if he becomes harder to wake, if he stops drinking, come back immediately. Day or night, come back. She nods, clutching the remedy. Thank you, SWNW. She pays what she can, not much, a handful of grain, and leaves, carrying her son carefully. Amenhotep watches her go. The worst part of this work, he says quietly, is not knowing. You do everything right, and sometimes they still die. You do everything wrong, and sometimes they recover anyway. You know he's right. Medicine is uncertainty pretending to be knowledge. But the pretense matters. People need to believe someone understands. Someone can help, even when you're not sure yourself. You wash your hands again. The water is cool, centering. Outside, the sun climbs higher. The day continues. And so do you. The courtyard is your pharmacy. Open to the sky, warm stone underfoot, a wooden awning providing partial shade. This is where medicines are made. Not in the cool scroll room where knowledge is preserved. Here, where sun and air and the physical work of healing happen. You sit cross-legged on a woven mat, a large granite mortar between your knees. The pestle is smooth, worn from decades of use, maybe centuries. Your father used this mortar. His teacher before him. The stone remembers generations of grinding. Today you're making a batch of wound salve, something you'll need constantly. Wounds are daily business. Into the mortar, dried myrrh resin, frankincense tears, ground malachite, honey, and animal fat. The myrrh smells sharp, almost bitter. The frankincense is sweeter, cleaner. The malachite adds green color and, you believe, helps wounds close faster. Modern analysis suggests you might be right about that. Copper compounds do have antimicrobial properties. Your ancestors weren't guessing blindly. You begin grinding in slow, circular motions. The pestle's weight does most of the work. You just guide it, maintain a rhythm. Grind, turn, grind, turn. The motion is meditative. Your mind settles. This is honest work. Physical. Real. The young apprentice sits nearby, grinding his own mixture. Something simpler, a basic poultice. He's trying to copy your rhythm, but keeps going too fast. Slower, you say without looking up. Let the stone do the work. You're forcing it. He adjusts. embarrassed but attentive. Learning medicine isn't just memorizing scrolls. It's developing feel, knowing when a paste is the right consistency, when an herb is ground fine enough, when a mixture needs more oil or more powder. These things can't be written down. They must be felt, practiced, internalized. The sun is directly overhead now. Relentless. But there's a slight breeze carrying the scent of the Nile. Water and mud and life. From somewhere nearby, you hear someone singing, a work song, rhythmic and repetitive. Someone else shouts a greeting. A donkey brays. Normal sounds of the city at midday. You add more honey to your mixture. Honey is expensive, but it's worth it. Nothing works quite like honey for preventing wounds from festering. Plus, patients like it. It doesn't sting the way some remedies do. Here's where things get strange for modern sensibilities. Some Egyptian remedies are brilliant. Honey, willow bark, moldy bread. Others are less brilliant. You got recipes that call for mouse tails, lizard blood, and yes, various types of dung. Crocodile dung as a contraceptive. Cow dung in burn treatments. Donkey dung mixed with herbs for various ailments. Why dung? Historians still argue about this. Some think it's purely magical thinking. Dung is associated with fertility and earth, therefore it must have generative power. Others point out that some animal dung, particularly herbivore dung, contains partially digested plants that might have medicinal properties. Still others suggest that in some cases, the dung was simply a vehicle for delivering other active ingredients. You use dung rarely, only when other remedies have failed and the patient is desperate enough to try anything. Does it work? Sometimes. Sometimes not. Medicine is full of mysteries. The apprentice speaks up. SWW, why do we add the malachite? Why not just honey and myrrh? Good question. Shows he's thinking, not just following instructions blindly. The green stone has properties that help flesh heal, you explain. But more than that, it signals to the wound that we intend transformation. Green is the color of growth of the Nile's fertile banks. We're telling the body to remember growth, not decay. The apprentice nods, though you can see he's not entirely convinced. That's fine. Medicine requires some faith. Not blind faith. You won't use something that clearly doesn't work. But faith that the accumulated wisdom of centuries means something. That your ancestors paid attention and passed down what worked. You finish grinding the salve. The consistency is perfect, thick enough to stay in place, thin enough to spread easily. You transfer it to a ceramic jar, seal it with a cork and wax. Label it with a quick hieratic notation. Wound salve, prepared on this date. Organization matters. You've seen physicians who keep sloppy inventories, who can't find the remedy they need in an emergency. You refuse to be that person. Amenhotep emerges from the scroll room, squinting in the bright sunlight. Making salve. Just finished. Good. We're running low. And I need to borrow some of your willow bark if you have extra. You gesture to the storage shelf along the courtyard wall. Third jar from the left. Take what you need. He does, then sits down beside you in the shade. Busy morning, he observes. Getting busier. How's your patient with the eye infection? Improving. The malachite eye paint seems to be working. That's another controversial remedy. Egyptian eye cosmetics, kohl, malachite paint, were thought to be purely decorative. But recent studies suggest they might have had antibacterial properties, that the cosmetics were actually preventive medicine. Your ancestors protecting their eyes in a harsh environment while looking elegant doing it. Not bad. You begin cleaning the mortar and pestle, scrubbing with sand and water. The apprentice watches, learning this too. Cleanliness is as important as correct ingredients. Question, the apprentice says hesitantly. If the gods control health and sickness, why do we need medicine? Both you and Amenhotep smile. Every apprentice asks this eventually. The gods give us illness to test us, teach us, or punish us, Amenhotep says. But they also give us knowledge to respond. Medicine is our part of the conversation. You add, think of it like farming. The Nile floods because the gods will it. But farmers still need to dig irrigation channels, plant seeds, harvest crops. The gods provide conditions. We provide effort. The apprentice considers this. So medicine is like irrigation for the body? You laugh. Not bad. Not exactly right, but not bad. A shadow falls across the courtyard. You look up. A messenger, young, breathing hard from running. SWNW, you're needed. A woman in labor. The midwife says there are complications. Your stomach tightens. Childbirth. Always dangerous. Always unpredictable. You stand, already mentally reviewing what you'll need. Amenhotep stands too. I'll come with you, he says. You're grateful. Two physicians are better than one when things go wrong. You grab your medical bag. Leather, worn soft from use. Inside, bronze instruments, linen bandages, remedies for pain and bleeding, amulets of Taret and Bess. The apprentice starts to stand. Stay, you tell him. Finish your grinding. Guard the workshop. He looks disappointed, but obeys. Some things apprentices shouldn't see yet. Some things require more experience than enthusiasm. You and Amenhotep follow the messenger into the bright, hot street. The city swallows you immediately. Crowds, noise, heat. Somewhere ahead, a woman is fighting for her life and her child's life. And you're running toward it with a bag of bronze and prayers. Hope it's enough. It has to be enough. The streets are a maze. Narrow passages between mud brick buildings. Twisting, turning, rising and falling with the city's ancient geography. You follow the messenger, who moves with the confidence of someone who knows these streets intimately. Amenhotep keeps pace beside you. Neither of you speaks. You're both conserving energy, mentally preparing. Childbirth complications are among the most challenging situations you face. 2 lives at stake. Limited time. Unpredictable outcomes. The heat is oppressive. Midday sun turning the air thick and heavy. Sweat runs down your back beneath your linen tunic. You pass a market where vendors sell fish, their scales glinting silver. A group of children playing with a ball made of papyrus and rags. An old woman sitting in a doorway, grinding grain. Life continuing, unconcerned with your emergency. The messenger leads you into a poorer section of the city. The buildings here are smaller, more cramped. Laundry hangs between structures. The smell of cooking fires and humanity pressed close together. You don't judge. Wealth doesn't determine who deserves care. Pain and fear are universal. Finally, the messenger stops before a doorway hung with faded fabric. Here, you enter. The room inside is small, dim after the bright street. It takes a moment for your eyes to adjust. When they do, you see her. A woman lying on a reed mat, propped up by cushions. She's young, maybe 25, and clearly exhausted. Her face is pale, sweaty. Her breathing shallow and rapid. Around her, other women. The midwife, an older woman with capable hands and worried eyes. The laboring woman's mother. A sister or friend. They've been here for hours, you can tell. The room smells of sweat, blood, and frankincense burning in a small censer. The midwife approaches you immediately. Thank the gods. She's been laboring since yesterday evening. The baby won't come. I've tried everything. You set down your bag, move to the woman's side. What's your name? You ask her gently. Nefret, she manages. Nefret, I'm a physician. I'm going to examine you and help you and your baby. All right. She nods, too tired to speak more. You wash your hands in a basin someone provides. Then you examine her abdomen, feeling the position of the baby through her skin. Your hands know what they're searching for. The baby's head, back, limbs. The baby should be head down, ready to emerge. But something feels wrong. The position is odd. You feel more carefully. There. The baby is breech, bottom first instead of head first. Not impossible to deliver, but dangerous. Much more dangerous. Amenhotep examines her as well, confirming your assessment. He meets your eyes. You both know this is serious. Breech births kill mothers and babies. Not always, but often enough that you've both seen the worst outcomes. The baby is turned wrong. You tell Nefret and the gathered women. Bottom first instead of head first. That's why the labor isn't progressing. The mother gasps, hand flying to her mouth. The midwife's face confirms she suspected this, but hoped she was wrong. Can you turn the baby? The midwife asks. You've done it before. External version, it will be called thousands of years from now. Using your hands to manually rotate the baby from outside the womb. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it makes things worse. I can try, you say. Honesty is all you have. You prepare a warm oil, olive oil, mixed with a small amount of myrrh. You rub it over Nefert's abdomen, warming the skin, relaxing the muscles. Then you place your hands on her belly, feeling for the baby's position again. You speak quietly to Nefert. This will be uncomfortable. I need you to breathe slowly and try to relax your body. Can you do that? She nods, gripping her sister's hand. You begin applying pressure. Gentle at first, then firmer. You're trying to coax the baby to rotate, to move from breech to head down. It's delicate work. Too much force could harm the baby or tear the womb. Too little force accomplishes nothing. Amenhotep watches, ready to help if needed. The midwife recites prayers to Tarit, the hippopotamus goddess who protects women in childbirth. You add your own prayer silently. Let this work. Let them both survive. Guide my hands. You feel the baby shift slightly. Maybe. Hard to tell. You adjust your hand position, try a different angle. More pressure, circular motion. Nefert cries out, not quite pain, but intense discomfort. I know. I'm sorry, you murmur. Just a little more, and then you feel it. The baby rotates. Suddenly, smoothly, as if it decided to cooperate. The head is down now, in the correct position. You check again to be certain. Yes. Relief floods through you. The baby has turned, you announce. The room exhales collectively. The mother sobs with relief. But you're not finished yet. The baby needs to be born. And Nefert has been laboring for almost a full day. She's exhausted. You give her a remedy to drink. An infusion of herbs meant to strengthen contractions. Date palm wine with ground fenugreek and a touch of honey. Drink this. All of it. She does, grimacing at the taste. You also take out 2 small amulets from your bag. One is Tarit, the hippopotamus protector. The other is Bes, the dwarf god who guards childbirth. You place them on Nefert's chest. These will protect you both, you say. Then you and Amenhotep position yourselves to help guide the birth. The midwife knows her work. She's delivered hundreds of babies. But having physicians present means access to interventions she can't perform alone. If the bleeding becomes severe, you have remedies. If the baby needs help breathing, you know techniques. If the worst happens, you don't let yourself think about that yet. The contractions intensify. Nefert screams. There's no shame in it. Childbirth is agony. Everyone in the room knows it. Her mother and sister support her, speaking encouragement. The midwife coaches her breathing. You watch, ready to intervene if needed. Historians argue about how much Egyptian physicians understood about childbirth. Were you mainly there for complications? Did you collaborate with midwives or compete with them? The truth, at least in your experience, collaboration. Midwives have knowledge you don't. You have interventions they don't. Together, you give the mother and baby the best chance. An hour passes, then another. The sun moves across the sky. The room grows hotter, more stifling. But finally, the baby's head appears. The midwife guides it carefully, then the shoulders. And suddenly the whole baby slides free. A boy, small, covered in blood and fluid, but moving, crying, alive. The room erupts in joy. The midwife quickly clears the baby's mouth and nose. You check Nefert, bleeding, but within normal range. You press on her abdomen to help deliver the afterbirth. Everything is messy, primal, real. But she's alive. The baby is alive. You and Amenhotep exchange a look of quiet relief. You won't celebrate openly. It would be inappropriate. But inside, you're thanking every god you can name. The midwife wraps the baby and places him on Nefert's chest. Mother and son, meeting for the first time. Nefert is crying, exhausted, overwhelmed. But she's smiling. You begin cleaning up, checking Nefert one more time to ensure no complications. You give the midwife instructions for care over the next few days. Watch for fever, excessive bleeding, signs of infection. The usual warnings. As you pack your bag, Nefert's mother approaches. Thank you, she says simply. She presses something into your hand. A small pouch of grain. It's probably more than they can afford. Thank you, she says again. You accept it with a nod. This is why you do this work, not for wealth or status. For moments like this, when knowledge and skill and prayer align, when life triumphs over the odds, you and Amenhotep leave quietly, back into the bright street, the city continuing around you, unaware that a small miracle just occurred in that dim room. Your hands are shaking slightly, adrenaline wearing off. Well done, Amenhotep says quietly. You two. You walk together in silence, heading back toward the House of Life. There will be more patience. There always are. But for now, you let yourself feel this. The victory. Small, fragile, precious. Life continuing. Back at the House of Life, you wash. Not just your hands this time. Your arms up to the elbows. Your face. Your neck. You need to feel clean after the intensity of the birth chamber. The physical and emotional residue washed away. The courtyard basin is cool, refreshing. You stand there for a moment, water dripping, letting yourself breathe. Amenhotep is already inside, probably recording notes about the delivery. Documentation matters. Cases must be recorded. What worked, what didn't, unusual presentations, outcomes. The scrolls in the library didn't appear magically. They're the accumulated notes of hundreds of physicians over hundreds of years. You're adding your small contributions to that vast collection. After drying off, you enter the scroll room. The cool, dim space feels like sanctuary after the heat and chaos outside. Amenhotep sits at the writing table, reed pen moving steadily across papyrus. You join him, preparing your own writing materials. Ink, carbon black, mixed fresh this morning. A clean sheet of papyrus, expensive, so you'll use it carefully. Your reed pen, cut to your preferred angle. You begin recording the breech birth. Date first, the regnal year of Ramesses II, the season, the month. Patient's name, Nefret. Presentation, breech, discovered after prolonged labor. Intervention, external version, successful. Outcome, live birth, male infant, mother stable. Remedies used, herbal infusion to strengthen contractions. Amulets, Taret and Bess. You write in hieratic script, quick, efficient, readable. Not the formal hieroglyphics used for monuments and tombs. This is working script for working people. As you write, you think about the case. What would you have done differently? Should you have been called earlier? The midwife had been handling it alone for hours before sending for help. Could earlier intervention have prevented some of Nefret's exhaustion? Maybe. Or maybe your presence earlier would have made no difference. Medicine is full of these unanswerable questions. You do your best with the information you have. Then you second-guess yourself forever. The young apprentice appears in the doorway. SWNW, may I ask you something? You set down your pen. Of course. He enters hesitantly. I've been reading the scroll about treating fractures. It says we should use splints and bandages. That makes sense. But it also says we should recite spells while applying the splint. Does the spell actually help the bone heal? Or is it just tradition? You exchange a glance with Amenhotep. This is a perceptive question, a dangerous question in some contexts. But the House of Life is a place for inquiry. What do you think? You ask. The apprentice hesitates. I think maybe the spell helps the patient feel calmer, less afraid. And when they're calm, they might heal better. Amenhotep smiles. Not a bad theory. You nod. The truth is, we don't entirely know. I've set bones with spells and without spells. Both sometimes work. Both sometimes fail. You pause, choosing your words carefully. Here's what I believe. The body has its own wisdom. It wants to heal itself. Our job is to create conditions where healing can happen. The splint provides physical stability. The spell provides spiritual stability. Both matter. The apprentice nods slowly, processing this. But what if someone doesn't believe in the gods? Does the spell still work? Amenhotep laughs, not mockingly, but with genuine amusement. You're going to make a good physician. You ask uncomfortable questions. He leans back. I've treated foreigners who worship different gods. Greeks, Nubians, people from the eastern lands. I still use our spells. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Same as with Egyptians. So maybe, you add, The spells work not because the gods directly intervene, but because the act of performing any ritual, signals to the patient and the physician that healing is possible, that we're taking action, that we refuse to surrender to suffering. The apprentice looks thoughtful. That's not what the temple priest would say. No, Amenhotep agrees. It's not, which is why these conversations stay in this room. This is the tension you live with. Egyptian medicine is inseparable from Egyptian religion, but you're also practical people who notice patterns, who experiment, who question the official position. The gods control all healing. The practical reality, proper technique matters more than perfect prayers. You'd never say that publicly, but in this room, among physicians, honesty is possible. Historians still debate whether Egyptian physicians were proto-scientists or religious practitioners. The answer is both, and neither. You're something else entirely. People trying to reduce suffering using every tool available, whether physical or spiritual, empirical or traditional. You return to your writing. The apprentice settles in a corner with a scroll, studying. The afternoon light shifts, becomes golden. Outside, the city's energy changes. The fierce heat of midday gives way to the more bearable warmth of late afternoon. You hear street vendors calling, their voices rhythmic and familiar. After finishing your case notes, you pull a different scroll from the shelf. The Eber's papyrus, not the original, which is ancient beyond reckoning, but a copy of a copy. This scroll contains hundreds of remedies. Everything from eye diseases to digestive problems to skin conditions. You're looking for something specific. A remedy for persistent cough. You have a patient who's been coming back weekly. An older man, a stone carver. Years of breathing stone dust have damaged his lungs. He coughs constantly, painfully. You've tried several remedies with limited success. You're searching for alternatives. The scroll lists honey mixed with dates, inhaling the smoke of burning juniper, a poultice of figs and frankincense applied to the chest. You tried the first two. Maybe the fig poultice will work. Worth attempting. But here's the thing that sometimes frustrates you. The scroll doesn't explain why these remedies work. Just that they do, or that someone once thought they did. It's recipe collection, not theory. You understand the how, grind this, mix with that, apply here. But the why remains mysterious. Why does honey prevent infection? Why does willow bark reduce fever? Why does moldy bread sometimes cure what clean remedies cannot? The scrolls don't say. Your teachers couldn't explain. The gods work in mysterious ways. That's the usual answer. But you suspect there are patterns beneath the mystery. Rules governing the body's functions that you don't yet understand. Future generations will figure some of this out. They'll look back at your remedies and laugh at the bizarre ones. But they'll also be surprised at how much you got right. Amenhotep finishes his writing and stretches. My back is too old for this much sitting. You smile. How old are you really? 53. Ancient by most standards. Not ancient. Experienced. Generous of you. He stands, moving to the window. The light catches his profile, distinguished, weathered, wise. You know what I've learned in 30 years of practice? He says. What? That medicine is mostly humility. We help where we can. We fail where we must. And we keep showing up anyway. Simple words. True words. That's why you respect him. No pretense of knowing everything. Just honest service, day after day. You finish copying the fig poultice remedy onto a separate sheet for your own reference. Roll it carefully. The apprentice has fallen asleep in the corner, scroll still open on his lap. You and Amenhotep exchange amused glances. Let him sleep, Amenhotep says quietly. He worked hard today. You nod. Youth deserves rest. Soon enough, he'll know what it's like to work through exhaustion. Outside, the sun descends toward the horizon. The day isn't over yet. There will be evening patients. There always are. But for now, this quiet moment. This refuge of knowledge and companionship. This room where questions are allowed and honesty is possible. You're grateful for it. As the sun lowers, you leave the house of life again. This time heading east, toward the workers' quarter. The neighborhood where the laborers live. The men who quarry stone, haul blocks, build tombs and temples. The people whose bodies break so that monuments can rise. You do this twice a week, Make rounds through the poorer districts. Not because you're required to, because it's necessary. Wealthy patients come to you. They have the time, the resources, the ability to seek care. Poor patients don't. They work until their bodies fail, then suffer in silence. Unless someone comes to them. So you come to them. The workers' quarter is different from the neighborhoods you've been in today. Smaller buildings, more crowded. The streets here aren't quite streets, more like pathways between structures. The smell is different too: sweat, smoke, cooking food, human density. Not unpleasant, just different. Real. You carry a smaller bag than usual. You can't bring expensive remedies here. Most patients couldn't afford them anyway. Instead, basic supplies. Linen for bandages. Honey, though less of it. Willow bark. Salt for cleaning wounds. A few bronze instruments. And time. Sometimes time is the most valuable thing you can offer. Your first stop is a man named Jetty. He's a stone mason, 40 years old, but looking 60. His dwelling is a single room, mud brick walls, a dirt floor, a small opening for ventilation. His wife greets you at the entrance. SWNW. Thank you for coming. Inside, Jetty sits on a low stool. His breathing is labored, wheezing. You've been treating him for months. Stone dust in the lungs, an occupational hazard for anyone who cuts or shapes stone. There's no cure. You know this. He knows this. His lungs are permanently damaged, scarred by years of breathing pulverized limestone and granite. All you can do is manage symptoms, try to make breathing easier, reduce inflammation. How's the cough, you ask? Better with the honey mixture you gave me last time. But the breathing, still hard. You listen to his chest. Not with instruments, those don't exist yet. You put your ear close to his ribs, listening to the sound of air moving through damaged passages. Raspy, congested, struggling. You can hear the wheeze clearly. I want you to try something new, you say. You take out the fig poultice you read about earlier. Ground figs mixed with frankincense and a bit of oil. Apply this to your chest at night, under a warm cloth. It should help reduce the tightness. You also give him more of the honey and date mixture. Take a spoonful morning and night. Don't skip it. He nods gratefully. His wife asks, will he get better? You meet her eyes. She deserves truth. The damage to his lungs won't heal, but we can make him more comfortable. Help him breathe easier. That's what we're trying to do. She nods, understanding what you're not saying. He won't get better. Eventually, this will kill him. But not today, and maybe not for years if you can manage his symptoms well. You don't charge Jetty. He's already paid in broken health for Egypt's glory. Next, you visit a woman with an infected foot. She stepped on something, maybe a thorn, maybe a piece of broken pottery. It seemed minor at the time. Now the foot is swollen, hot, red streaks climbing toward her ankle. Remember Tahotep's infected arm this morning? Same problem, different social class. But your treatment is identical. You clean the wound with beer. Apply honey generously. Wrap it in clean linen. Speak the same healing prayer. Disease doesn't recognize social hierarchy. Neither should treatment. Keep it elevated, you instruct. Don't walk on it unless absolutely necessary. Come to the House of Life tomorrow, so I can check it. She looks worried. I can't miss work. I'll wash clothes for her. If you don't rest it now, you'll lose the foot. Maybe the leg. Then you definitely can't work. Harsh, but true. She nods reluctantly. You move through the quarter, patient to patient. A child with a rash, probably reaction to something she ate. You give a soothing ointment and instructions to avoid certain foods. An old man with joint pain, arthritis, though you call it stiffness of the limbs. You give him willow bark and show his daughter how to prepare warm compresses. A young woman with stomach problems, probably intestinal parasites, incredibly common in Egypt. You give her a deworming remedy, ground pomegranate rind mixed with beer. Tastes awful. Works reasonably well. Each visit is brief. You have limited time and many patients. But you're thorough. You examine carefully. You explain treatments clearly. You treat them with the same respect you'd give a nobleman. Because they're people. Suffering people who deserve care. As the sun touches the horizon, you make your final visit. A man named Kansu, a tomb builder. He injured his back lifting a stone block. Common injury in his profession. You've been treating him for weeks. Today, he's standing when you arrive. Good sign. How does it feel? You ask. Better. Much better. I can bend without wanting to scream. You examine his back, pressing gently along the spine. He winces at certain spots, but doesn't cry out. Improvement. Significant improvement. You're healing well, you tell him. But don't rush back to heavy lifting. If you re-injure it now, it might never properly heal. I need to work. My family needs to eat. It's the eternal problem. Medical advice versus economic necessity. I understand. But can you do lighter work for another week? Supervision, tool preparation, anything that doesn't involve lifting. He considers this. Maybe. I'll try. It's the best you can hope for. You leave him with more of the anti-inflammatory paste. As you walk back toward your own neighborhood, the city transforms in the fading light. Oil lamps begin to glow in windows. Cooking fires send smoke rising. The air cools, finally offering relief from the day's heat. Your feet hurt. Your back aches. You've been working since before dawn, but there's satisfaction in it. Today, you help people. Not all of them. You can't help everyone. Not perfectly. Medicine is imperfect, but you showed up. You used your knowledge and skill in service to people who need it most. In the wealthier parts of the city, medicine can make you comfortable. Here, in the workers' quarter, medicine is essential. The difference between working and starving, between living and dying, the stakes are always higher. The gratitude is deeper. The knowledge that you matter, really matter, is clearer. You think about Jetty, struggling to breathe. The woman with the infected foot, worried about work. Kansu, fighting to heal while feeding his family. These are the people who build Egypt's greatness. Who quarry the limestone, haul the blocks, carve the temples, paint the tombs. Their names won't be remembered. They won't have elaborate burials or monuments. But their labor makes everything else possible. And when their bodies break from that labor, you're here, offering what comfort, what healing, what dignity you can. It's not enough. It's never enough. But it's something. And something is what you have to give. The stars begin appearing overhead. Familiar constellations. The same stars that watched over Egypt when the first pyramid was built. The same stars that will watch over Egypt long after you're gone. You walk through the cooling evening, toward home, toward rest. Tomorrow, you'll do it all again. Different patients. Same mission. Reduce suffering. Preserve life where possible. Offer dignity where cure isn't possible. That's the work. That's always been the work. Home again. The journey from the workers' quarter took longer than expected. Your feet protest each step, but you're here. The familiar mud brick walls. The small courtyard now deep in shadow. One oil lamp burning in the window, left by you this morning. Still flickering. Still waiting. You set down your medical bag. Lighter now, supplies depleted. Tomorrow you'll need to prepare more remedies. Grind more herbs. Mix more pastes. The work never quite finishes. But for now, rest. You wash first. Always wash. The courtyard basin, the same one from this morning. The water is cool, refreshing against your skin. You wash your hands, your arms, your face. The day's residue, sweat, dust, traces of other people's pain, sluicing away. Ritual cleanliness again. Not just physical, spiritual too. Preparing yourself for evening prayers. You light fresh incense, frankincense again. The smoke rises, familiar and comforting. You kneel before your small household shrine. The wooden statues of Thoth and Taret. Simple figures carved decades ago. Nothing elaborate or expensive, but sacred to you nonetheless. You've neglected proper offerings all day. The bread you left this morning is stale now, but you leave it. Add a small cup of beer, a pinch of salt, what you can spare. The gods understand poverty. They understand busy hands. They don't demand perfection, just sincerity. Thoth, Lord of wisdom, you begin quietly. Thank you for the knowledge I carry. Thank you for guiding my hands today. For the nobleman's wound that's healing. For the child's fever that might break. For the breach baby turned right. For Nefret and her son, both alive. You pause. The day's successes feel fragile. Tomorrow might bring different news. The nobleman's infection might return. The child might worsen. Birth complications sometimes appear days later. You've learned not to celebrate too soon. Medicine teaches humility. Sekhmet, you continue addressing the lioness goddess, lady of plague and healing. Thank you for your mercy today, for holding back your fiercer judgment, for allowing us mortals to practice our small arts. Another pause. Now comes the harder part. I ask forgiveness for those I couldn't help, for the man I lost last week, the farmer with the infected wound. I tried everything I knew. It wasn't enough. Guide him safely to the afterlife. Comfort his family. Help me learn from my failure. You feel the weight of it, that death, and others before it. They accumulate. Each loss leaves a mark. You carry them all. Every physician does. For Jetty, whose lungs are failing, you add, I can't cure him. I can only ease his suffering. Grant him comfort. Grant him time. Help me accept what I cannot change. This is the prayer you return to most often. Help me accept what I cannot change. Because so much is beyond your control. Bodies fail despite your best efforts. Diseases progress beyond your ability to halt them. Children die young. Strong men wither. Women bleed out in childbirth despite every intervention. You can slow death, postpone it, sometimes prevent it, but never defeat it entirely. No physician can. The gods alone control life's final boundary. Your job is to work within the space between health and death, to expand that space where possible, to make it less painful where expansion isn't possible. You light a second stick of incense. Watch the smoke drift upward. There's something meditative about watching smoke. The way it rises, twists, dissipates, solid becoming invisible, like the boundary between life and death, distinct but ultimately permeable. You think about the patients you saw today. Tahotep's infected wound. You'll see him tomorrow to check progress. The toothache patient. He'll probably be back in a few days, needing extraction. The fever child. You won't know the outcome until the mother returns or doesn't. Nefret and her baby. The real test comes over the next week. Jetty with his ruined lungs. A slow decline you can only manage, not stop. The woman with the infected foot. Everything depends on whether she rests it. Kansu with his back injury. Recovery is possible if he's patient. Each patient is a thread. Your work is weaving those threads toward healing. Some threads hold, some break. You do your best and hope the pattern holds together. Historians will eventually recognize that Egyptian medicine was remarkably advanced for its time. Surgical techniques that wouldn't be improved upon for centuries. Pharmaceutical knowledge that contained genuine therapeutic agents. Diagnostic methods that showed sophisticated understanding of the body. But they'll also note the limitations. The magical thinking mixed with empirical observation. The remedies that couldn't possibly work. The misunderstandings about anatomy and physiology. You live in those contradictions. You're brilliant and ignorant simultaneously. Advanced and primitive. Scientific and superstitious. You accept it because you have no choice. You use what works. You discard what clearly doesn't. You preserve traditions even when you don't fully understand them. And you pray, always pray, that the gods will fill the gaps in your knowledge. The incense burns down. You remain kneeling, not quite ready to rise. The courtyard is peaceful, stars visible overhead through the opening. The same constellations you saw while walking home. Eternal witnesses to human struggle. You hear your neighbor's voice through the wall, a man singing to his child. A lullaby, soft and rhythmic. Normal life continuing. Families intact, children sleeping. Those are victories too. Not every day brings dramatic saves. Most days are just continuation. People waking, working, eating, sleeping. Bodies functioning as they should. That's success, even if it's unremarkable. You finally stand, knees protesting. Inside your small room, you prepare for sleep. Remove your tunic. Lie down on the reed mat. Pull a light linen sheet over yourself. The wooden headrest supports your neck. Uncomfortable to modern minds, but familiar to you. You're exhausted, bone-deep tired, but your mind won't quiet immediately. It rarely does. You review the day. Second-guess decisions. Wonder about outcomes. Plan tomorrow's work. Eventually, though, exhaustion wins. Your breathing slows. Your thoughts drift. You're falling into sleep, into dreams where sometimes you're treating patients who've been dead for years, where sometimes your remedies work perfectly, where sometimes the gods speak directly instead of in symbols and smoke. Tomorrow will bring new patients, new challenges, new mysteries to solve with insufficient information. But tomorrow is tomorrow. Tonight, you've done what you could, helped where you were able, showed up, tried, cared. That has to be enough. Because it's all anyone can do. The oil lamp flickers, running low. You should extinguish it. Save the oil. But you're too tired to rise. Let it burn itself out. Small light in the darkness. Like your work. Small lights against large darkness. The last thing you see before sleep claims you fully is the smoke from the extinguished incense. Still visible in the lamplight. Rising, twisting, fading. Present, then absent. Like breath. Like life. Like all things temporary in this ancient, eternal land. Sleep comes slowly at first, then all at once. Like falling into the Nile. That moment of resistance, then surrender. Your body finally releases the day's tension. Muscles softening. Breath deepening. Mind drifting from thought to something more fluid, more strange. Dreams in ancient Egypt are considered messages. Portent from the gods. Windows into the divine. You've never been entirely sure about that. Sometimes your dreams are just dreams. Replays of the day. Anxieties about tomorrow. Random images assembled without meaning. But tonight, as sleep takes you deeper, the dreams are gentle. You're walking along the Nile at dawn. The water is silver blue, perfectly still. No boats, no fishermen, no noise. Just you and the river and the first light. You feel lighter here. No medical bag weighing you down. No patients waiting. No wounds to treat or decisions to make. Just walking. Just breathing. Just being. In the distance, you see someone. A figure approaching along the riverbank. As they come closer, you recognize your father. He's been dead for 5 years now. But here in the dream, he's alive, smiling, carrying his own medical bag. Still working too hard, he says, not unkindly. I learned from the best, you reply. He laughs. That laugh you'd forgotten until this moment. You're a good physician. Better than I was. That's not true. It is. You question more. You're not afraid to try new things. I'm afraid all the time, you admit. That's what makes you good. Fear keeps you careful. You walk together in comfortable silence. The kind of silence only possible with people who understand you completely. After a while, he speaks again. You can't save everyone, you know. I know, but you keep trying anyway. What else would I do? He smiles. Exactly. What else would you do? The dream shifts, as dreams do. Now you're in the house of life. But it's different. The scroll room is infinite, stretching in all directions. Thousands of scrolls, millions, endless knowledge. You reach for one, unroll it. The text isn't a script you don't recognize. Yet somehow you can read it. It contains remedies you've never seen. Explanations for things you've always wondered about. The why behind the how. You try to memorize it, but the words slip away even as you read them, like trying to hold water in your hands. The knowledge is there, but you can't quite grasp it. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Amenhotep appears beside you. The answers are always just out of reach, he says. Is that how it always is for physicians? Yes. We know enough to help, not enough to understand fully. Will anyone ever understand fully? He shrugs. Maybe. Someday. Generations from now. They'll look back at us and see what we got right and what we got absurdly wrong. That's humbling. Medicine is humbling. The dream shifts again. Now you're in many places at once. Checking Tahotep's wound. It's healing beautifully, the infection gone. Visiting the feverish child. He's awake, smiling, eating, standing beside Nefret. She's holding her baby, both healthy, both thriving. Sitting with Jetty. He's breathing easier, laughing with his wife. All your patients simultaneously, all recovering. You know it's a dream. Real life doesn't work this neatly. But the dream feels kind, giving you what reality often withholds. The satisfaction of success. The certainty of healing. The knowledge that your work mattered. You drift deeper still. into a darkness that's not frightening, more like rest, pure rest, the kind of rest that comes when you've done everything you could, when you've given everything you had, when there's nothing left to give until tomorrow. Your breathing is slow now, barely perceptible, the rhythm of deep sleep, the rhythm of the Nile's current, the rhythm of seasons turning, the rhythm of life continuing despite everything. In this deep place, thoughts become simple, elemental. You remember why you became a physician, not for wealth or status. Those things are pleasant, but they're not the reason. You became a physician because suffering is unbearable, because watching people hurt without trying to help felt impossible, because you had hands that could learn to heal, and knowledge available to be absorbed, and a calling, yes, that old-fashioned word, a calling that wouldn't be ignored. Some people build monuments. Some people write poetry. Some people govern cities or command armies. You tend wounds. You mix remedies. You sit with people in their most vulnerable moments. You bear witness to pain and sometimes help ease it. That's enough. That's everything. The night deepens around you. Outside, the city sleeps. Thousands of people in thousands of rooms. All breathing, all dreaming, all living their small, significant lives. The workers you treated today are resting, their bodies trying to repair the day's damage. The wealthy patients in their comfortable homes, hoping tomorrow brings continued healing. The mothers watching over feverish children. The old people feeling their bodies slowly fail. The young people not yet aware of their own fragility. All of them asleep under the same stars you prayed beneath. All of them connected in the great human project of survival. And you, small, fallible, limited, you're part of that project. One thread in the vast weaving. Your medical bag will be ready tomorrow. The remedies will be prepared. The incense will burn. The prayers will be spoken. And you'll begin again. Because that's what physicians do. They begin again. Every day. Every patient. Every wound. Every fever. Every mysterious pain. Beginning again with hope, with skill, with whatever knowledge can be gathered from scrolls 3,000 years old and insights gained just yesterday. The oil lamp finally gutters out. The room falls into complete darkness. But it's not a frightening darkness. It's the darkness of rest, of restoration, of preparation. The darkness that comes before dawn, before light, before the next day's work begins. You sleep deeply now, dreamlessly, or perhaps dreaming dreams too deep to remember. Your breath is steady, peaceful. Your body is repairing itself. You, the healer, being healed by the body's own wisdom. The same wisdom you try to support in your patients. The same mysterious intelligence that knits wounds and fights infections and maintains the delicate balance between health and illness. Outside, the stars will slowly across the sky. Constellations your ancestors named. Constellations your descendants will see. The same stars watching over this ancient land where medicine began, where humans first decided that suffering could be opposed, that knowledge could be accumulated, that healing was possible if you paid attention, if you tried, if you cared enough to keep showing up. That legacy lives in you, in your scarred hands and tired eyes, in your medical bag and your memorized remedies, in your willingness to walk into suffering and try to ease it, not because you always succeed, but because trying matters, because showing up matters, because the effort itself is sacred, even when outcomes are uncertain, even when knowledge is incomplete, even when the gods remain mysterious and the body's secrets stay partially hidden. You keep trying, you keep showing up, you keep caring. And that simple, persistent dedication, that's what makes you a physician. Not the scrolls you've memorized, not the techniques you've mastered, but the refusal to turn away from suffering, the determination to help even when helping is hard, the willingness to carry other people's pain without being destroyed by it. That's the work. That's always been the work. From the first Egyptian physician who ground herbs and spoke prayers, to you, sleeping peacefully in your small room tonight, to physicians 3,000 years in the future who will remember you as the beginning. The work continues. The healing continues. The caring continues. generation after generation after generation. An unbroken chain of people who decided that suffering matters, that life matters, that the space between health and death is worth fighting for. You are part of that chain, one link among thousands. And tonight, you rest. Tomorrow, you'll wake and continue the work. But tonight, just for tonight, you can let it go. Let someone else carry the burden. Let the gods watch over your patience. Let sleep restore what the day depleted. Let peace, however temporary, settle over you like linen sheets, like warm oil, like honey on a wound, like all the gentle remedies you prescribe to others. Tonight, the remedy is rest. Simple, profound rest. And you accept it gratefully, surrendering to sleep's healing darkness, trusting that dawn will come, that your body will wake, that your purpose will return, that tomorrow will bring new chances to help, to heal, to care. But that's tomorrow. Tonight is for sleeping, for dreaming, for the deep, restorative darkness that makes all work possible. Sleep well, ancient healer. Your work is important. Your dedication is beautiful. Your humanity is touching across vast expanses of time. Rest now. The world will need you again soon enough. But for these quiet hours, rest. And so the day ends, as all days must, in a small room in ancient Thebes, with a physician sleeping, dreaming of rivers and remedies and patients who might recover. Tomorrow will come soon enough, with its emergencies and its routine visits, its successes and its inevitable failures, its moments of clarity and its persistent mysteries. But tonight there's only this, the quiet breathing of someone who spent the day trying to ease suffering, who ground herbs with patient hands, who spoke prayers over wounds, who walked through wealthy neighborhoods and poor quarters alike, treating everyone with the same careful attention, the same hope that knowledge and skill might make a difference. We've walked beside this physician all day long, felt the weight of their medical bag, watched them mix honey and frankincense, seen them turn a breech baby, witnessed their prayers and their doubts, their successes and their sorrows. And through it all, we've seen something that transcends the 3,000 years separating us. We've seen someone trying their best, with imperfect knowledge and limited tools, but with genuine care, with dedication that wouldn't quit even when outcomes were uncertain, with the kind of persistent compassion that makes civilization possible. Medicine has changed so much since then. We understand things now that would seem like magic to our ancient physician. Germ theory, antibiotics, anesthesia, surgery that can repair the heart itself. We've gained knowledge they could barely imagine. But some things haven't changed at all. The physician's fundamental task remains the same: to meet suffering with skill and compassion, to show up when people are vulnerable and afraid, to carry knowledge forward generation to generation, to be the person who says, "I will try to help," even when help is uncertain, even when the outcome is beyond control, even when all you have is honey and prayers and steady hands. That ancient physician sleeping in the darkness, they're part of an unbroken chain that leads directly to modern medicine, to every doctor and nurse and healer working today. The chain stretches backward into the distant past and forward into an unknowable future. But it's continuous, each generation learning from the last, adding their own discoveries, making new mistakes, and finding new solutions. All of them connected by the same fundamental calling: to reduce suffering where possible, to preserve life where possible, to offer dignity and comfort when cure isn't possible. Our ancient physician understood this, even if they couldn't cure Jetty's ruined lungs, even if some wounds festered despite honey and prayers, even if children still died of fevers they couldn't break. They kept trying, kept showing up, kept learning and teaching and caring. And that matters. That has always mattered. That will always matter. As long as humans exist and bodies fail and suffering needs witnessing. So let's leave them now, sleeping peacefully. Let's not disturb their rest. They've earned it after a day that began before dawn and ended well after sunset. A day of grinding medicine and treating infections and turning breech babies and visiting the poor and recording cases and offering prayers. A day like so many other days in a physician's life. Unremarkable in some ways, miraculous in others. Tomorrow they'll wake and do it again. But tonight they rest, and we can rest too, knowing that across vast distances of time and space, humans have always tried to help each other, have always sought to ease suffering, have always believed that knowledge and compassion together can make life a little more bearable, a little less painful, a little more worth living. That's the legacy of ancient Egyptian medicine. Not just the honey and the willow bark and the surprisingly sophisticated surgical techniques, but the spirit behind them. The refusal to accept suffering as inevitable. The determination to try. The courage to care, even when outcomes are uncertain. Even when knowledge is incomplete. Even when the work is hard and the hours are long and the losses accumulate. They tried anyway. Our ancient physician tried. And tomorrow, they'll wake and try again. Just as physicians all over the world will wake and try. Continuing that ancient, honorable, exhausting, essential work. The work of healing. The work of caring. The work of showing up for humanity at its most vulnerable. May they all sleep peacefully tonight. The ancient ones and the modern ones. The ones who worked with bronze and honey. And the ones who work with steel and antibiotics. All of them connected. All of them trying. All of them deserving rest when day is done. So sleep now. Like our ancient physician sleeping in their small room 3,000 years ago. Let the day's burdens fall away. Let your breathing slow and deepen. Let the darkness hold you gently. Tomorrow will bring its own challenges and opportunities. But tonight is for rest. For the deep, healing sleep that makes all work possible. For dreams of rivers and starlight and people recovering. For the quiet satisfaction of having tried your best. Even when best wasn't perfect, it was still something, and something is better than nothing. Always. Rest well, everyone. The ancient physician sleeps. The stars wheel overhead. The Nile flows on, eternal and patient. And somewhere in the darkness, new life continues. New babies breathing their first breaths. New patients making it through difficult nights. New mornings preparing to arrive. With new chances to help, to heal, to care. But that's for tomorrow. Tonight, we rest. All of us. Ancient and modern. Healers and healed. Teachers and students. Connected across time by our shared humanity. Our shared fragility. Our shared hope that suffering can be eased and life can be preserved and tomorrow might be a little better than today. Sleep now. The work will wait. The patients will wait. The world will wait. Tonight is for sleeping, for dreaming, for the gentle darkness that restores us all. Sweet dreams.